All right, welcome back to the Healthcare Rewritten podcast. Today, we are continuing our gut pathogen series, and we're going to talk about parasites. I'm sure you all know someone who's done parasite cleanse after parasite cleanse after parasite cleanse. And today, we're going to talk about why you probably shouldn't be doing that, what you actually see when you think you're passing parasites, and how to approach them so you can actually heal and prevent them. So stick around through the rest of the episode. As a reminder, this is not medical advice. It's for educational purposes only and does not replace a one-on-one relationship with your provider. So if you have questions about your health condition, make sure you consult your provider. Now let's dive in.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Healthcare Rewritten podcast. Thank goodness I don't have to do that intro skit.
I only had to retake once.
Yeah. It's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Because that's like where you have to, check all the boxes, make sure that you say it's not medical advice, all that stuff, right?
Yeah. And Happy New Year to you all you healthcare seekers, all you health wellness seekers.
That's right. We have some fun stuff to talk about today. We get to talk about the stranger things that we find in our gut, right? Mm-hmm. A little reference to the end of an era, essentially. Finishing Stranger Things. That was fun.
10 years of my life.
Comment down below if you watch Stranger Things and let me know what you think of the ending. Has nothing to do with this podcast, but we're human and we, don't just work 24/7. So we like to share our personal lives sometimes too.
Some people were really mad about the ending and some people were they were happy about the ending. Not necessarily happy, but they enjoyed the ending. They thought it was a good ending, like closure was had.
I think I have mixed emotion. I just don't want, I feel like that's the thing. Most people don't want it to be over and it's over. Mm-hmm. So that's with any show. You're never going to get everyone to be happy because if you had to ask the majority of people, they'd want another season. They'd want 2 more seasons. So unless they were giving that, people would be like,
yeah.
Can't make everyone happy.
Right, exactly. Everyone has their own vision of what it was supposed to be like. So
other than that, nothing else really going on this week.
Nope. We're just going to dive right into those strange things that you might see in your poop, or probably not. You probably don't see them in your poop, but we're going to get into that today. So this is going to be fun.
Yeah, it is. And if you're still doing the no sugar challenge, we are currently on today 6 or 7. 6, 7, one of the days.
Don't do that.
Sorry.
Do not. Stop it right now.
I had to. Okay, yeah. So today's day 6 of the no sugar challenge. I'm doing it. Lena's still breastfeeding, so she's not doing the no sugar challenge. It's going great so far. Mm-hmm. I think the first couple days definitely had a headache because I do a decent amount of carbohydrates from like sweet potatoes and rice and regular potatoes and a lot of fruit. So it was a good change for me. Definitely had some headaches in the beginning, but I think it's going well. Mm-hmm. And I hope it's going well for all of you as well. If you haven't listened to the no sugar video yet, it was the last one that we recorded. And if you need help with the no sugar guidelines, what to do, you have questions, we have a whole guide available for you in the link of this video. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. Let's quit beating around the bush and let's talk about the creepy crawly parasites.
Okay? All right. Let's do it.
I feel like the best place to start with this, remember, there's no cutscenes anymore. We just go straight through.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you cut out the other ones too.
Yeah, I just get rid of the cutscenes.
Oh. So all right. Well, let's just freaking do it then. Okay?
That's right. Okay. I have the intro and the outro, but I don't have like the cuts because we don't do the mailbag. That's an individual episode. We don't do the
news.
We don't do the news because that's my own thing. And then we don't do the health homework because it's built into it. Same thing with the Mythbusters. And then this is the root cause rundown, but we just call it the episode at this point. So yeah, parasites.
Right. Cool. So let's start by talking about what parasites are. Okay, so we know, I'm sure in science class, when do you learn about that? 8th grade, 7th grade? You learn about host organisms and things like that. Symbiotic relationships. What are the other words? Parasitic relationships. Yeah. So parasites require a host to essentially, they steal your nutrients. They thrive off your energy. So parasites are always going to require a host, which majority of the time we are the hosts, right? So they are living organisms and they live in the gut, and they, like I said, steal all your nutrients. They feed off your nutrients. They feed off your energy. And they're a lot more common than you think, but they don't always cause as many issues as everyone talks about online. You know what I mean?
Unless you actually are exposed or dealing with a parasite. Something that I talk a lot about when it comes to parasites or pathogens in general is the hygiene hypothesis. Have you heard about that?
Mm-mm.
So essentially, it's the fact that, you know, all the industrialized countries now, we don't have as much exposure to these things anymore. So when we come into contact with them, usually we have a worse reaction because our body isn't trained to fight or battle these things off. It's like why we don't let our kids play in dirt, right? Let your kids play in dirt so they can get sick, build that immune system up. As we've become more industrialized, we have not been in contact with as many microbes, parasites, that stuff anymore. So when we do have that exposure, that's where autoimmune conditions, chronic disease can really, you know, flare up.
Too much hand sanitizer.
That's right.
So most people think you get parasites from, you know, unclean water, unclean conditions.
Undercooked meats.
Undercooked meats, right? Yeah. So undercooked meat, produce, raw fish, you know, sushi, you can get them from lakes, rivers, water infestations. You can get them from traveling. Lots of people who go out of the country could get parasitic infections. You can get them from your pets. You can get them from, you know, kids running around. You can get them from past food poisoning. You can get them from having, you know, a weakened immune response. So there's lots of different ways that you can acquire having parasites.
And speaking of pets really quick, that made me think about something. We are talking about parasites today. There are a class of parasites called ectoparasites, which that's going to be your ticks, your mites, your fleas, your bed bugs. That kind of reminded me to make sure I bring that up because we were talking about pets. We're not going to be talking about ectoparasites today. They do carry their own host of viruses and diseases. You know, we can do a whole video or series on Lyme, right? Mm-hmm. We're not going to do that today, but ectoparasites is something that we should cover, just not today, because it's not something that's living in your gut.
Right. So we're talking about parasites that are living within your gut. So things like blastocystis, giardia, Dientamoeba fragilis, and things like those pinworms, roundworms, protozoa, all of those sorts of parasites.
Those are your helminths.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you have your protozoas. So, which are the single cell.
Yep.
One thing that I feel like we should dispel some myths first.
Sure.
So something that you brought up in the intro was you might not be passing a parasite. That might not be what you're seeing. I think that's something we should bring up because you're not always going to see parasites, especially when you do a parasite cleanse. Okay. The majority of parasites that we look for and test for that can get in the gastrointestinal tract are microscopic. You will not see them. You won't.
Yep. A lot of people, when they do a parasite cleanse and then they tell you that they saw parasites in their stool, or you see videos of people posting where after they do a parasite cleanse and they show you what they passed, that is not actual parasites. They're not, like you said, they're microscopic. They're not that big. And the things people are showing in these videos are like, 6 inches long, 7 inches long, 7 inches long, but it's not actual parasites. So this could be things like the mucosal lining of your gut. Like it's just being sloughed off because there's so much irritation because you're taking such strong anti-helminthic herbs. It could also be biofilms that you're expelling. It could also just be tissue that's been inflamed for a long time and you're pretty much just pooping it out. So a lot of the times though, it's going to be that mucosal lining. And you might even notice that when you see it or when you look at it, it looks mucousy. It's like a film almost. So that's not a parasite.
When you do parasite cleanses, there's some rules that you should definitely have in place. Number one, testing to see what parasites you have, if you have any at all. But you have to remember, we have adapted, that's the correct word, adapted. We've basically, what's the right word for that? Right, let me think here. Coexisted. Let's use that word. We've coexisted with parasites for a very long time. We learned to adapt, right, with them in our systems. We've adapted to being encountered, with parasites. So they've learned how to dodge and hide. not just from anti-parasitic medications or herbs, but your immune system too. So they're not always going to present themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So doing a parasite cleanse because you check a couple boxes for symptoms isn't always the green light that you should take.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that as well, just because you have a bunch of symptoms or don't have a bunch of symptoms, it doesn't mean you should or should not.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Right? I mean,
yeah. So we were talking about terrain theory,
Yeah.
Basically, that's the basic here. The basic principle is that terrain theory. Your body is able to fight off these parasitic infections, keep them at bay when you are exposed to them. But if you have a poor environment of your terrain, right? Your terrain is not up to par, then parasites are going to grow and thrive, right? And then we talked about this where parasites steal your nutrients. They need a host to grow and thrive. So if you make the host uninhabitable for them, then they're not going to grow and thrive. But a lot of people are not taking care of their terrain.
Right. And you need to have that resilient, strong immune system to make sure it can combat those and start looking for those parasites. Because if your immune system is burned and overwhelmed and there's yeast and there's bacteria and you don't treat your gut right and you're not sleeping and you're doing all these things to hinder your immune system, that immune system cannot have the proper ability to go out and find and scavenge for those parasites to alert your body that, hey, something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll constantly just you'll have all these nutrients, especially iron.
Oh yeah, I was going to say.
And B vitamins just depleted. We'll get into it here in a minute about what can we look at on labs that might be a sign that there may be a parasite.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to do that now?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so the gold standard for us to look for parasitic infections is obviously a comprehensive stool analysis. And we do a 3-day stool analysis because it is very difficult to catch parasites in a stool test. So if you have more samples, you're more than likely going to catch it if one is present. And I always tell my patients this is, once we get that stool test back and a parasite doesn't show up, that doesn't mean that they're not there. They're just hiding from you if they are there. You know what I mean? But we never approach it as having a parasitic infection unless we have proof that it is there.
Yeah, we do a couple other things too to make sure that we're timing everything the right way. If we think or suspect there's a parasite on that initial appointment and we're running that stool test, we may even recommend that you complete the 3-day analysis during the full moon. Parasites are a little bit more active during that time period. We may also ask you to take something to help agitate or to help release whatever might be hiding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then on top of that, we also do something where, we don't do this. The Genova test does this, but they look for parasites in 2 different ways. They look via PCR and they also look through I have a problem saying this every single time, microscopy.
Microscopy.
It's a hard word to say. Microscopy. Microscopy. Yeah. I don't know why
That's a hard word.
That is a hard word. Say that 5 times if you're listening to this right now.
Microscopy. Microscopy.
There you go. I think you got it.
Microscopy.
Anyway, we look for it in 2 different ways to make sure that we're not missing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, so there could be other signs that a parasite is present on other labs too, even if we don't catch it on a stool test. So I also like to look at food allergy testing for a lot of people. A lot of people who have many anaphylactic allergies or IgE allergies, I'm usually thinking that there's a parasitic infection present. People who have had any sort of stomach surgery typically are more susceptible to having parasites. So if you've had a gastric bypass, or even those who have had ostomies, ileostomies, or colon or colectomies, any of those types of surgeries can leave you more susceptible to parasitic infections. So I usually look for those types of signs. You could also have elevated levels of eosinophil protein X on your stool test. Eosinophils are a type of immune system cell, a type of white blood cell that we have that have an affinity towards parasites and allergy responses. So those IgE responses. So again, just kind of tying that all together, signs of parasites, elevated eosinophils, lots of IgE or anaphylactic food allergies, or just food sensitivities in general, right? Lots of those. can lead you to believe that there's a parasitic infection that is active and actively causing problems.
Yep. And that's where these aren't like diagnostic markers. What they do is they show a pattern that are associated with parasites. You mentioned eosinophil protein X that you can see on a stool test, also looking for eosinophils on a standard CBC, right? Where you can take a look at those values. Typically, if they're over 500, that's kind of where you're like, we probably should look a little bit deeper.
Yeah. And I've had patients where they don't fit any of those patterns and they have a parasite. It was like, oh, that's a surprise. Hello.
Surprise.
Interesting. That's new. But that's why it's dependent on the person, and you don't want to just go based off patterns. You want to have definitive data that shows you that a parasite is present. That way you're not randomly doing parasite cleanses. You're not randomly taking these anti-helminthic and anti-parasitic herbs that can be very irritating to the gut if not taken under the guise of a provider. Right? So we have to be very careful with that sort of thing. And I think a lot of people just are doing random parasite cleanses, candida cleanses on a regular basis. They're doing them like more than once a year. And that's not how you need to be approaching it. And if you're constantly feeling like you need to do these cleanses, then there is something wrong with the immune system.
Yep. And even the medications, right? We don't like to talk too much about the medications, but I mean, even things like ivermectin, chloroquine, and then all the dazols, right? Everything ending in dazol, they're going to cause fatigue, obviously gastrointestinal disturbances, headache, nausea, insomnia, more rashes, all the stuff that you think is coming from a parasite in the first place. The reality is, if you're taking a medication or you're taking a supplement or a protocol for recurrent parasitic infections, you really need to take a look at the terrain. You have to take a look at your microbiome, because it is super favorable, apparently, for those buggers to stay around and stick around. They think it's a perfect place to settle on down and set up camp.
So let's talk about other things we can see on labs that kind of lead us towards parasites, right? We talked about iron and B vitamins. Okay. So we talked about how parasites steal nutrients. I think it's very common that people with parasites have trouble with anemia or have low levels of B vitamins. Number one, because their stomach acid sucks and they can't absorb those nutrients very well. But number two, if your stomach acid is not up to par, you're, again, more susceptible to parasites because you're not sterilizing your food. They have more of an opportunity to grow. And parasites really love iron. They really, really love iron. So I really can't stand when practitioners give people iron when they have low iron, because what you could be doing is continually feeding that parasitic infection, just making it more habitable for them to grow and thrive and have babies.
Yeah. If you're listening to this episode right now and you've had blood work done in the past year, I encourage you to take a look at your hematocrit. Look at your hemoglobin, look at your iron levels. Are they low? Are they functionally low? Has your doctor addressed that with you? Typically, if they address it, it's going to be supplementing iron and not looking at the root cause. We talked a few weeks ago about gut dysbiosis, right? Poor absorption of iron at that gut lining, poor B vitamin production, right? All of that stuff is going to contribute to low iron. There's different reasons, right? So you need to make sure that you're getting to the bottom of why, not just supplementing with something over the counter or via prescription.
Yeah, and usually the feel goods after you get that iron supplementation are short-lived.
Very short-lived. Constipation is probably the number one downfall of that, right? If you're really constipated after taking an iron supplement, probably a good sign that there's definitely something deeper going on.
Absolutely.
I mean, the reality is this: make sure that if you're going the holistic or functional route, working with a practitioner is really important. Cycling through certain herbs, binders, really important. Timing is extremely important. A couple herbs that we're a big fan of, obviously, like berberine, wormwood, black walnut, right? Those are some big ones.
Oregano oil.
Yeah, oregano. So those are our favorite to help support that process. There's a longer list, but those are probably our go-tos in our clinic, would you say? And then you pair that with what?
Diatomaceous earth. Basically like eating sand. So it's literal earth like compounds. It's like sand, dirt, rocks. Basically what it does is it agitates the gut lining to pull the parasites out so that you can flush them through. If you've ever taken a baby to the beach, just think of it this way. You've ever taken a baby to the beach. Do they eat sand? Yes. They shovel that stuff into their mouths. My son included.
Yeah, he did that last summer.
It was disgusting. But he pooped so much after because he basically had flushed out his entire gut lining. He flushed everything out and you just poop it right out. So it agitates the gut lining. It can help pull the parasites out. And then when you add in those anti-parasitic herbs or anti-helminthic herbs, it makes it more likely for you to kill them, essentially. So it's very helpful. When I have my patients do any parasite protocol, I always include diatomaceous earth, and they absolutely can't stand me for it, but they get better and it's amazing what it can do. I can tell you right now, my patient, she had Graves' disease. She had been working with me for 2 years almost. And we were initially ran her stool test. She did not have a parasite show up initially. So we worked on her gut. She did a really good job, worked really hard, improved her diet quite a bit. Her labs did improve, but they weren't where we wanted them. Then we reran her stool test and then a parasite came back. I'm like, this is what's been hiding underneath all of that other gunk that she had going on. So then we started working on that. And I started her on the diatomaceous earth. And we started this very specific parasite protocol for her, along with supporting her thyroid, along with supporting her immune system and digestion. And I just got her most recent labs back, like a complete 180. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is crazy. She did this all without any pharmaceuticals, like all lifestyle, all supplementation based, just blew it out of the water, did absolutely phenomenal work. She hated me in the beginning of her parasite protocol. She was like, Dr. Lena, I have had diarrhea for like a week. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but we got to keep going because it's okay. She's like, I felt like I was going to just be curled over the toilet forever. I'm like, it's okay. It's going to be fine. And literally her labs look phenomenal. Almost better than mine.
We talk about this a lot, and it's making decisions in the short term that might not be the most enjoyable for long-term benefits is really important. And I'm happy that she made that decision. Mm-hmm. If you like stories like this, if you like hearing patient cases, that's something that you can get on our Instagram or on our TikTok page or on our YouTube page in the short section. We do a whole bunch of different patient cases talking about what patients came in with, obviously anonymously, what their labs looked like and what we did to help get them back on track. So if you like those kind of storytelling videos, make sure that you go ahead and check out all of our short form content on those platforms. You want to talk a little bit about other supplementation that's really important, and it's going to be based off of nutrients, right? Like you said earlier, parasites can really siphon nutrients from us. So when I'm working with a patient, and I'm sure you do this as well, that have parasites, obviously we're going through protocols to get the parasites out, also restoring and rebuilding the gut microbiome so that those things aren't going to come back. But in the meantime, you have to do extra support, right? You have to make sure that your patients are getting those nutrients. They're getting the B vitamins, right? They're getting the folate. They're getting the zinc. They're getting the copper. They're getting their micronutrients. They're getting, honestly, they still need iron, right? Especially if they're anemic, right? So all those things are still really important to make sure that we're supporting them with through that journey. And then believe it or not, when we actually restore the microbiome and get things settled back down, the dosing for those either go away completely or they're down significantly.
Mm-hmm. All in all, parasites are a problem of the immune system not functioning well and your digestive system not functioning well. So quit with your TikTok parasite cleanses because it's not going to make you better. It is literally a waste of your money. And if you have to continually keep doing them, then you haven't solved the actual root cause. Parasites are not a root cause.
Even though so many people say that it is a root cause, parasites are not always a root cause. There's something deeper on why they were there. Mm-hmm. Do you have low stomach acid? Do you have a shitty environment? Here's something that a lot of patients come to us for. They did a parasite cleanse and they herxed, right? Herx reactions, essentially you detox and eliminate things too fast and your body's like, no. I'm not responding well to that. A good way to describe a Herx reaction, I use this with my patients, is you see a big beehive hanging from a tree. You whack the beehive down. Is it a good thing you whack the beehive down? Yeah, the beehive is gone, but the swarm, knocking it down too fast, not having the right protocol or plan in place, that swarm got at you and you had a negative reaction. So it's a positive, but also met with a negative way too fast.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I describe a Herx reaction. And it happens a lot with getting rid of parasites.
Yeah, especially people who try to do them while they're constipated. You cannot do a parasite cleanse while you're constipated.
Unless you have a different way that you're going to get the parasites out of you. Like, I don't know.
You're going to sweat them out your eyeballs? You're going to cry them out your eyeballs?
It's happened.
That's so gross. Ugh, no thanks.
Here's a couple things that you can do as far as dietary changes go. Obviously, everything that we talk about as far as restoring the microbiome, eating better foods, nutrient-dense foods, staying away from ultra-processed foods, all that stuff. You don't need me to repeat that 100 million times. But there are a lot of actually anti-parasitic foods. And the number one that I want to talk about are the papaya seeds. I didn't know this.
Yes.
And then I ate a whole papaya with all the seeds. And man, that stuff gets ya. I didn't know that. So you learn something new every day. I did that a couple of years ago. But also like pumpkin seeds are great. Garlic and onions are really good. Ginger's a good one. Pomegranate, all really good anti-parasitic foods that have those properties built into them. So if you like those foods and you feel like you have a parasite, those are a good thing to support with through that journey.
And they won't be as irritating to your gut lining.
And you get nutrients out of them too. So it's like a 2-for-1.
Yeah, exactly. Always keep track of your symptoms, right? You always want to keep track of your bowel movements specifically. How many bowel movements are you having a week? You should be having at least one bowel movement per day. If you are not, I don't care if this is not the medical definition of constipation, but you are constipated. You need to be having one bowel movement a day. It is your main way of detoxification and it is your main way of elimination. And if you are not eliminating everything that's in your system at least once a day, then you are building up toxins within your body, making it more likely for you to harbor parasitic infections. So make sure you're pooping once a day. If you're not pooping once a day, you need a stool test. Just a great way to check for parasites at the same time.
Yeah, the stool test is a great place to start with co-management with a practitioner. If you like trying this on your own, especially if you don't know the ins and outs, can be very overwhelming. And again, timing is probably the most important thing. You don't just dive into a stool test and you see a bunch of infections and everything. And you just start trying to kill them off right away because that's the answer. That's the medical minded approach. You have to, the approach that we take is you have to calm things down. You have to get a good baseline. And then we can start implementing some changes to change that environment to get rid of the bad guys. And then you have to let the good guys start growing again. Right? And then you have to make sure that environment's in a really good, healthy spot before, checking off all those boxes and you're, free to fly out of the nest. Because if you don't check all those boxes, you're going to be back in our doors, or you're going to be back buying those same parasite protocol cleanses or whatever cleanse you're buying the next year. Mm-hmm. You have to have that established. And it takes a lot of work, but doing it the right way is super, super important. Mm-hmm. There's so many companies that just bank off of people I got to do my 6-month parasite cleanse. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
If you're doing a parasite cleanse every 6 months, there's something else deeper going on. Mm-hmm. There really is. You have to dig deeper on finding out why you need that all the time. And most of the time you don't. Right.
You're doing it just because you're told to. You're told by someone on TikTok that you needed to do a parasite cleanse once a year. It's not the case.
And when you agitate that gut lining, that's not always a good thing.
No.
Right? I mean, we try to prevent that from happening. Obviously, you might need it to elicit a response to get rid of something that shouldn't be there, but that's not something you should be doing all the time. Mm-hmm. That gut mucosal barrier is extremely important. And if it's agitated and irritated and our body recognizes that, and you're constantly doing those cleanses where you're ripping that gut lining to shreds, your immune system's not going to be happy about it, and it's not going to respond well to other things, other actual stressors that your body's encountering.
Yeah, and you're going to end up with more food allergies, more food reactions. You're going to end up more susceptible to things like mycotox illness and, other bacterial infections and candida. And we see this a lot. People, especially those who have inflammatory bowel conditions, you can have very similar gut lining mucosa to them if you are constantly doing things that are irritating the gut lining without replenishing it. And I think that's a big problem. People are not replenishing. They're not replenishing the good bacteria, especially after taking really, really strong herbs, and they're not replenishing the gut lining by itself.
Right. So sorry if you started clicking on this podcast and you're like, ooh, I can't wait to get what they, I'm going to go buy what they recommend as far as their parasite cleanse that Dr. Lena and Dr. Collin recommend. And I'm going to buy it at the end of this podcast episode. Nope. We don't have one for you.
No.
Sorry. It's a little bit more complex than that.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be more individualized. Most likely, if you do have parasites or you have gut issues, you probably have a couple other things going on, and that needs to be worked out together because our body is all connected.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. I think we kind of touched every base. Is there anything else with parasites that you think is important for the listeners to know?
I don't think so. I think we covered pretty much everything.
Then I'm going to have to do my important thing here. Let me scroll. So this is the part where I can't remember all this. But if you like the episode, make sure that you give it a thumbs up, a 5-star review, whether you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you're watching this. If you learn something, tell me what you thought about Stranger Things. Put that in the comments below. Definitely interact and engage with the content. That helps us more than you realize. And if you know someone who is constantly doing a parasite cleanse, send this episode to them. Really important. And then lastly, if you feel like you have a parasite or you have no guidance in your health journey and you want extra help, Dr. Lena and I have a bunch of resources, free resources that you can use. And if you want to work with us one-on-one directly, you have access to us as well. There is a link in the description of this video where you can apply to work with us.
Yeah, and for the whole month of January, we are doing our new patient appointment for $99. So if you book the appointment in the month of January, even if it's scheduled outside of this month, you will get this special discounted rate. We do not offer this very often, so you definitely want to take advantage of that while you can. And then we can discuss what will be best for you as far as testing recommendations, dietary recommendations, and guide you on the right path so that you're not constantly guessing and having to do random parasite or candida cleanses on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Yeah, we don't do discounts a lot. So this is the time of the year. If you want to do it, you can. If not, maybe a different time. But we do have a bunch of resources for you. Make sure you check those out. And always do the free thing for us, which is make sure that you're sharing this content. Make sure you're engaging with it. What Lena and I are trying to do is we're trying to help restore health to every single person in America. Help basically rebuild what has been broken. Again, we're a really sick nation. And the only way that more people can know about this is if you share the episode, if you engage in the content so more people can see this. That's how we rebuild America's health.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
All right, Lena, closing remarks, anything that you have?
Don't forget to sign up for the No Sugar Challenge. We're getting into it really hot and heavy right now. So make sure you use the link below so that way you can get your No Sugar Challenge guidelines, the foods list to avoid versus enjoy. We have a whole recipe list for you. And then you get access to our private Facebook group where we're posting recipes, we're talking to challengers, and we're having a good old time in there.
It's a lot of fun. And if you didn't start on the beginning of January, that is okay. You can start tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You can start on the 10th. Do it for 30 days. That's the thing. Start in January, do it for 30 days. If that's January 30th to February, not February 30th, March
2nd.
3rd, 2nd, something like that. That'll work too.
Mm-hmm.
So get involved, start your health on the right track in January, and we will see you all next week.
See you later.
Goodbye.